Days away from Christmas we are. This is the Y'all Show. I am John Rawl, and an early Merry Christmas to everybody out there. It's time to go to Music Row for our Nashville Music Line report. And of course, when we go to Music Row, we find the one and the only elf that Santa has left in Nashville year-round. That is Preshias Harris. She's a lot like an elf, actually, in more ways than one. I'll tell you what, she's an angel is what she is in more ways than one, too. I know she's standing by. We'll get to her. Who the heck is Preshias Harris besides being an elf? She is a music career development consultant, and she helps aspiring singers and songwriters out each and every day. Go to her website, Nashville Music Line, to learn more about Preshias Harris. Also, she has the book, I Know Country. It is not too late. It is a great stocking stuffer that has 366, not 65, 366 daily country music questions and answers right there. It'll be a fun way to spend the holidays if you get your copy of I Know Country, and the website to download and get your ebook edition of that is iknowcountry.com. All right, let's go to Music Row, Nashville, Tennessee, US of A. It's Preshias plus one. Hey, Preshias, how you doing? Who the heck is in the background there?
That is one of my little sweet, very talented little girls.
Is that an elf there in your workshop?
She looks like she's 12, doesn't she? She's actually 23.
No way.
Yep, Miss Chastity.
I was thinking more like 53, but I'm just
That's
kidding.
Me.
Hey,
yeah. She can be my
you don't ever talk about a woman's age or weight. So just saying. You probably don't know that, but I'm telling you that.
I'm turning my phone down. I forgot to turn it on silence a while ago, so I just want to make sure.
And you don't talk about a woman's telephone either.
That's right.
Preshias, how are you doing here in the days before Christmas?
I am doing really good. I'm a little worn out. I feel like I'm about 90 years old. My office mate, Katrina, and I went and did Christmas for Kids yesterday, which is a charity that's been going on for right at 30 years. And I think Garth has been involved since the first inception of it, those many years ago. But I got involved because my cousin was one of the bus drivers. It usually involves on Monday night, bus to bus to bus, nose to nose to nose. And everybody gets to go visit with all the country stars that show up and get autographs and get to go on their bus and take pictures. And it's just a wonderful midwinter or beginning of the winter fan zone. But this year, due to COVID, we've had our concerts virtual for the Christmas for Kids with Phil Vassar. I think it was last month. And then this time we had people come in to shop, and we get the list from the children. We do it. Well, because of COVID, we've had to have 45 people less to shop for these 400 kids. So we were having people in and out all day, Monday and yesterday at Walmart. And Katrina and I took care of 6 kids for Christmas. And I am just slap wore out because I forgot my Skechers. Never do that again.
Well, put that on your wish list. Hey, Preshias, let's talk about some Christmas music of yesteryear. Bobby Helms and Jingle Bell Rock, one of the great Christmas songs. You get to hear it each year. And he also sang Fraulein, but he was known for this Christmas song. And now there's a special Nashville edition of this re-release. Tell me about Bobby Helms' music and what's going on now.
Well, I have to give a disclaimer. Full disclaimer, I actually wrote the liner notes for the record. And we released it last year, but because the timeline of trying to get it, because we have the masters that was done in 1980 here in Nashville, but it's not that we updated. We cannot take anything away. We can only add to it. So we took the actual recording that Charlie Abram did the first time around, and we went in and we actually added to it and made it a special Nashville edition. So this year was the full-on, everybody's involved, put the thing, we put the single together. We got the album together now. And so I decided to call it the special Nashville edition of that. So anyway, but I call it the special Nashville edition, but it's probably, I think we got 250,000 impressions just last year when we did it. And that's just us doing it really, really late. So this year we decided to reintroduce it because it's such a wonderful recording of, what it is. So I'm excited for this for our, but I'll tell you who who actually helped on it for the Nashville edition is this guy named Robbie Turner. And you know Robbie because he is actually the steel player for Chris Stapleton. But you've probably heard him lots and lots of times on records that you wouldn't even know that he had played on. But there's 10 tracks on the album. If you get a chance, check it out on Spotify. We got it up on iTunes, Amazon, wherever there's full digital and streaming releases.
All right. Again, right there, good stuff from Preshias Harris. Let's talk a little bit, Precious, since you're into the disclaimer world right now, talking about Bobby Helms and your work with that. How about these guys, Dan and Shay? I need a full disclaimer. What's going on with them in the holidays?
Well, of course, my husband works with some of their video teams, so he had reached out. He had saw because he actually did the video storyboard for the video for 10,000 hours. But they have got back-to-back Christmas releases that had came out, and their videos, and it's got Dan's fur babies, and it's got Shay's actual kids involved in it. And to not go into too much detail, you have just got to go to YouTube and Google Dan and Shay Christmas 2020 and see the videos that come up. It is just amazing. Like Take Me Home for Christmas is one of them. And then they've got actually one of the guys that wrote that, the song Take Me Home for Christmas, was also one of the guys that co-wrote God's Country. So a lot of talented writers there. And I think he also, one of the guys, one of the Jordans, I want to say wrote Tequila. So, very intertwined with the super duo. I'm just going to call them a super duo because that's what they are. And I've got to interview them several times, and just really, really sweet. You got to check out Shay's son, Asher, announcing, "Ladies and gentlemen, Dan and Shay." It's so cute. He is just adorable. So hopefully Santa Claus will be good to him too this year.
That all sounds good. We are visiting with Preshias Harris here on today's Y'all Show, and it's our Nashville music line. Let's go ahead and fire away with our music trivia. Again, this comes to us courtesy of I Know Country. Go to iknowcountry.com and check out Preshias's book with 366 daily country music questions and answers are in there too. And our trivia question this week from I Know Country is, this guy toured with the hat-wearing Terry Clark and the lovely redhead Reba McEntire. That sounds like a good place to be, touring with those two. And they were part of Two Hats and a Redhead tour, and they released a 15-track album titled Time Well Wasted. Who is the fella that teamed up with Terry and Miss Reba some time ago for this, again, tour called Two Hats and a Redhead tour? We'll have the answer to that in just a second. This one's, I don't know exactly the timeline and when that tour kicked off, but it's been a few years because I haven't heard that term, Two Hats and a Redhead tour, in quite some time. So, Precious, we'll get that from you here in just a second. We were talking about a legend in Bobby Helms. Let's talk about another legend, a living legend that's with us. Columbia, South Carolina born and Commerce, Georgia raised, Bill Anderson. Whispering Bill Anderson in the news. Precious, why is Bill Anderson, why is he on our docket to talk about today?
Well, he's actually, he'd actually come up with a title earlier this year. But anyway, it's called It's a Good Day for a Good Day. And of course, the pandemic hit, and then it became imperative that he release the song and have it completed. So he's actually ending it with an incredible review from Robert K. Orman. So it's funny that it was written before the pandemic, but it fit while the pandemic happened. But of course, I love Bill. But I didn't realize till we started doing some of the research on it, how many awards he had won. I didn't realize that he has got a song in 7 consecutive decades. He's had a hit song on the charts for 70 years. And I'm thinking, am I telling his age when I say that? Or did he start really young?
He started pretty darn young, Mr. Po Folks singer.
Yeah.
Just a great guy.
He is so funny. I've met him several times. Of course, his manager, Lee, and I are friends. But I didn't realize he'd won 50-plus BMI awards. That's got to be a record. It's almost as much as Ashley Gorley for ASCAP. But Yeah, and of course he's been a member of the Grand Ole Opry, I think, for 59 years, and then he's 70. I think the album he released earlier this year was his 73rd album. So you add all that up, and he really needs to be under the icon beside his name in the Wikipedia if it's not already. But like I said, I'm a big fan. He was one of my favorite. His album anyway. Real quick, his album is called The Hits Reimagined. But my grandmother was a huge fan of him. And one day, where I'm at my grandmother's house, and we're watching Match Game, and he shows up, and my mama, we call her name was Mama Effie. She about died because she thought Bill was giving up Nashville for L.A., and I thought she was gonna have a fit, lay an egg. So to speak.
Say it ain't so. Yeah. All right, Precious, let's keep the fun going as we're visiting with our Music Row correspondent, Preshias Harris, right here on Y'all Talk with a Southern Accent. And let's talk about the Nashville Music Publishers Association. They have their own awards. I wasn't aware of this. Precious, tell me about what they've released for 2019 and 2020.
Well, it's actually a really good, like, I belong to the industry, and they have Super Pro, but I do the industry one, the membership. They have the guest membership, which is free, and then I do because I'm not a pro publisher, and I have a published company, but not a pro. I just have it in case it's needed for things. I've had to use it before because I've had a couple of clients that were in publishing deals, and they're older clients, that the publisher would not release their publishing unless they transfer it to another publishing company. So I ended up having to start my own publishing company. So they would transfer, which is crazy. My hit writer, who's got 6 or 7, he used to write for Lauren Lynn, publishing transferred back to him. So signed it back to me, turned around and signed it back to him the next day. It was crazy. But anyway, but they have an awards. And of course, I do know that Ashley Gorley is up for one of the bigger awards there. But you have to be part of this company to tell you how great it is. They really protect the publishers. They help with the songwriters. And but if you get a chance and you want to be part of the industry, and you're a songwriter and you're trying to learn more about publishing, they have a lot of seminars. That's where I met the vice president of YouTube to learn if I had an issue with a trademark issue or a copyright issue, or how to get my music note for one of my clients. I found out how to get there and what to do. But yeah, they have an award ceremony, and thank God that they're doing. They give out a couple of awards this week, and I'm very excited. I know that Old Dominion got one for their things, their songs. They got for 2 Grammy awards. Some people do, and then best country song, and then they've got the vocal group, which they also got for 2020 CMA awards.
All right.
Associated Independent Music Publishers is what it stands for.
Sounds like a plan. Hey, Precious, let's go a little Mississippi here for a minute, if you don't mind. One of my favorite shows that you can still catch on television from time to time, In the Heat of the Night. I don't know if you remember that series with Carol O'Connor in the lead role, but one of the main figures on that series on NBC was a guy who was one of the sheriffs there, and his first name was spelled Parker. Most people would call it Parker, but Chief Gillespie would say Parker. And Parker is on our mind, which, by the way, giving a little shout out to the great state of Mississippi. I was in Jackson this past weekend, the state capital, and Precious, this was a great connection to Music Row and frankly, more Opryland. But I went to Cock of the Walk. Do you remember Cock of the Walk in Nashville?
Yes. Is it back open again?
I don't know. I hadn't been there in 25 years, probably.
Oh, well, it was open before the pandemic, so.
Okay. Well, yeah. That's a big tourist attraction near Opryland, and it's a great catfish and chicken place. And, of course, they originate from Mississippi. And I went to, I think, the original location on the Ross Barnett Reservoir for the very first time this past weekend. And a great memory, again, for the many years that it was open that I went to it right there in Nashville. But speaking of Parker is on our mind, not catfish, because that name appears in our top 5 of the Billboard Country Airplay for this week. One of them girls from Lee Brice checks in at 5, a former number 1. And Parker McCollum is at 4 with Pretty Heart. Precious, who the heck is Parker?
Well, we had talked about him before. He's actually I've been getting press releases about him for like 2 or 3 years, but he's really made a name for himself. He had been what I call work ethic the last 3 years. He always had, from what I understand, he's always been very involved and very committed to his career. But in the last 3 or 4 years, he's just been writing a lot and committed to going to the next level in his career. And he's actually been adopted by the Texas market. And it's been a couple of years since I interviewed him, so I can't remember when I interviewed him exactly what state of this great country he ranks from. But he's actually in the Billboard top 5 plate, even though he's been a number 1 on the Texas charts. But anyway, but he's Pretty Heart. Pretty Heart was the first one that actually got the radio's attention, and this is off his follow-up album. But he was actually based out of Austin, Texas, and started making the trips to Nashville to try to get the inner circles working, and then he ended up going back to Texas, and that's where he's doing it. But he's been doing like I said, he's been doing music that I can remember since 2013 from the press releases. The last couple of years, I've been getting a whole lot more, so he's gotten more involved and got more of a team around him. So, and he's actually probably one of my favorite new artists that I call, even though he's not new, but yeah.
And Precious, I don't want to be a judge here, but I would assume that he might be kind of easy on the eyes.
Well, he could be my great grandchild, I guess. You could say he's easy on the eyes. We'll have to ask this one back here. What do you think? What do you think, Chastity?
Yes.
Yes. The answer is yes.
Okay. That's the way it works.
Yeah, this is. I know.
I just need to get me a guitar, and I'd have that kind of attention too. Hey, how about this kind of look, Precious? Parker is a singer-songwriter, and this song, Pretty Heart, was written alongside Randy Montana during Parker's first co-write in Nashville. Talk about luck.
I know. I'm just saying. The song, one of the first songs that she had a co-write with the 2 girls, her and Jess Farmer and little Samantha Meyer. We call her Sam Meyer. Their first co-write. She's taken the song and going to cut it and put it on her record, or Miss Chastity is. So we're pretty excited. And we had a pizza party with a new kid coming in from Alabama that just got home from auditioning for The Voice. And but once again, I'm not surprised that song came out of the first write, because it's just the way it is. Like one of my former clients did an interview last week with a podcast, and I didn't realize that his mother was taping it. She posted on Facebook. He had actually mentioned me on their podcast as one of the who put him in his very first co-write in Nashville. Yeah. Now he's in Broken Bow, and he's got the massive going across the country with Stepfathers, and now they made it for Stepfathers to Girls, but it was My Boy with Elvie Shane. But I put him in his first co-write. So it does, you never know in Nashville. I mean, you just never know. So I always tell the kids, you walk in thinking you're going to do the best you can, and you come out, you're going to come out with a hit, or you're going to come out with an experience that you can take to the next co-write and the next co-write and the next co-write, which is really important, is learning your way around a writer's room, because this is a songwriting capital of the world. You're sitting right in the middle of it right now.
Put that one in your book, Chastity. All right, at number 3 is Russell Dickerson, Love You Like I Used To. At 2, Chris Lane and Big Big Plans. And numero uno for the week, Gwen Stefani and a guy named Blake Shelton, Happy Anywhere, the number 1 song, again, according to the Billboard Country Airplay Top 5. Let's go answer that trivia question, Precious. The question was asked earlier, who toured with Terry Clark and Reba McEntire on the Two Hats and a Redhead tour, and they released a 15-track album called Time Well Wasted. Who is the lucky fella to tour with those lovely ladies?
It is Brad Paisley.
Brad Paisley. Do you have any idea when this tour was going on?
Well, his first album was Mud on the Tires, so it's got to be at least 20 years ago, because I think and I'm not giving dates.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, but you have to remember, Terry Clark has just recently rebounded back to country music. She never left country music, but I mean, she had taken a break for a while. But so it had to be, if you do 20 years, it had to be 2000 at least. If from her if she was touring with a record deal, which I'm sure she was. So it had to be at least 20 years ago. But I think Brad's first record was Mud on the Tires. He may not have had that album out yet, but that's the album that he used to kick off his touring as an artist with a deal. And he still got the same deal with Arista, so which is really good.
Yep, he's doing quite well. Let's move over to a more modern act that's also doing well. Of course, Brad, we know you're still making hit songs too. And that modern act that's got something out, they're going to compete with Chris Stapleton for maybe the most uncreative album cover I've seen in quite some time. Old Dominion, Band Behind the Curtain. This is a brand new EP, which is exactly the term I would use as a half-hearted album. It's not quite a full album, so they call it the creative EP, but what do you know about why Old Dominion is coming out with this EP right now?
Well, I can't blame everything on COVID, but I will, or the quarantining. But I do know that they have been around. They have been friends forever in a band for I know at least 20. But they've got. I think I've went to at least that I can remember just off my head at least 7 #1 parties that one of those members had a hit song with. I remember Dustin Lynch, Thomas Rhett, Kenny Chesney, Sam Hunt, Keith. I want to say Keith Urban, I think. But I mean, you have to realize it's been to a lot of #1 parties. But they are very much in the world.
Name dropper.
In the music road. I know. In the weeds of music road. But I know that they're. I love the plain albums. Like last week when you said that, I was thinking about. You got this album last week. All you had was the Solid White album with just Chris Stapleton at the top. But they, like I said, they won the CMA Awards this year, and like I said, they're one of my favorite groups. I mean, I love all country music, but I just respect them as just the writers that they are and the creators. Because if you think about it, you got a band who you've got at least 4 of them who's had #1 songs on the charts in the last 6 or 7 years as songwriters. Longer, that's not a bad gig for a band. It definitely puts your odds in your favor for having a hit song on your record, possibly 10 of them if you got a 10-song EP.
Yeah, again, Old Dominion with hits like Hotel Key and more, and this is a brand new EP just in time for Santa Claus to put it in your stocking. Let's talk a little This Week in Country Music History, Precious, if you don't mind. Ferlin Heskey's Wings of a Dove, one of your favorites growing up, I'm sure, was #1 on the Billboard Hot Country Songs chart this week in 1960, in the closing days of the Eisenhower administration. Garth Brooks and Tricia married this week in 2005, so happy 15th anniversary for that couple right there. Tim McGraw topped the country single chart this week in 2014 with Shotgun Rider. And some birthdays here this week. We had birthdays early in the week from Bill Lloyd of Foster and Lloyd. I'm going to talk about him in just a second. Also, you have Marty Rabin, Shenandoah, with a birthday on Tuesday of this week as Marty turned 61 years young. And Sam Hunt, the former UAB Blazer quarterback, with a birthday turning 36 years young this week. Also, the great Johnny Rodriguez with a birthday. Johnny's almost 70 years old. He's 69 years old. And then we have Kevin Sharp. Sadly, Precious, I met Kevin Sharp with you at the Longhorn way back in 1993 or 4. A guy that sang hit records. His first song was a big #1 called Nobody Knows, a cover. And Kevin Sharp, a really nice guy, passed away in 2014 from cancer. And he was born this week he was born December 10th, 1970. So yeah. Kevin Sharp, who you and I got to know some. Just a sad thing that we lost him. I think at only 34 years old, something like that, maybe 44.
Yeah, he actually was a Make-A-Wish kid is how he got his record deal.
Yeah, David Foster helped him out. Also, Brenda Lee. Wow, you talk about Christmas. Brenda Lee with a birthday here this week as she is 76 years young. the great MCA producer, former Elvis piano player Tony Brown, with a birthday this week. He turns 74. And then we also have a birthday from songwriter Byron Hill. All those birthdays coming up here this week. And going back to Bill Lloyd, Precious, do you watch much YouTube? Are you a YouTube junkie?
Well, I do. I've been expanding. I'm trying not to because I got 700 emails, if you look at my phone, that I need to take care of. But it's just been one of those weeks where instead of looking at email, because it sometimes is a little bit rough, especially around the holidays when I know. And it's not bad news, just like I have so much work I have to do for my website and research and things like that. I'm a little overwhelmed. But Bill Lloyd, I got a story for him if you want to hear something funny.
I want to hear your story. My story first to set you up is, for whatever crazy reason, all of a sudden, Foster and Lloyd started popping up on my suggested YouTube videos, and I started watching some of their songs, like Texas in 1880, and Fair Shake is one of my favorite songs, and Crazy Over You was probably their biggest song, and they were on Austin City Limits one time. I got to see some of that. And, of course, Radney Foster went on to have a great solo career with Arista Records, but it was with Bill Lloyd that those two first kind of came out. And I didn't realize Bill Lloyd was such a great instrumentalist. He was a heck of a guitar player. What's going on with Bill Lloyd? And I'll let you segue from that to your Bill Lloyd story. Lloyd, have mercy.
Well, like I said, he's always been, I mean, you may not have seen them on the radio, Foster and Lloyd, even though they've had separate careers going on. But Bill is very much here in Music Row, like full on in the weave, and has been. I'm blessed enough to get to see him about every year for sure. During 10 Pan South, he comes out. Like I said, I love me some Bill Lloyd. I'm just going to tell you. But if you get a chance,
I do too. Just want to throw that out there.
If you get a chance, you go to YouTube. It's literally got, if I remember, because I did look him up last year when I seen that he was going to be a guest. I wanted to just refamiliar myself. Remember, okay, I met Bill in 1980 in Bowling Green.
That was a long time before Foster and Lloyd.
Way before. But let me tell you how. I got to tell you the full circle.
I forgot. That guy's a Western Kentucky guy, isn't he?
He is. I walked in.
Poor guy.
I know. I wanted to go to a concert. My mama finally let me have a concert. So I went in to buy tickets, which there's a little record store. God, I wish we had more mom and pop's record stores. I'm sorry. Anyway, I went in to buy my ticket at Toontown for the Commodores and the band Skylink or Skylark. We're opening up at Dill Arena there in Bowling Green. So he sold me my tickets to my very first concert, to the concert in Bowling Green. He was working at Toontown for college. He was in college. I think we're about the same age. He might be.
Is there a college there in Bowling Green?
Yeah, Western Kentucky University, the Hilltoppers. Woo!
I'm kidding on that.
I know. Anyway, so he sold me my tickets, and then he used to play there they started their Foster and Lloyd. There was a club that was a top 10. There was 10 clubs named in the United States back in that era, and had like Walk the West, and a lot of alternative rock was coming out of the north and out of south. It was Walk the West, Government Cheese, and they ended up playing at a place called Picasso's, and it was like the place to play at the college town back then. Well, then fast forward, I get to Nashville, and I'm interning at the record label down the hall, and I look and I thought, that looks just like Bill Lloyd walking across the parking lot. I'm like, oh my God, it is. And it is, of course, getting a deal. And then they end up, with RCA, which was upstairs at the time. Then, of course, Radney ended up getting a deal later as a solo artist with a sister label, Arista. But just good memories from Bill. And he's probably one of the most talented. I didn't realize he was a really good guitar player, because back then when I was exposed, I just thought all music was incredible. And then the more I worked in the business, you realize there's different levels, like the Peter Frampton level and the Keith Urban level, and realize that your roommate may not be a good guitar player as you thought they would. And that's all I'm going to say. Mm-hmm. But I knew that Bill was incredible musician, which what made it work, and their harmonies were just like they were siblings. Yeah. I love me some Foster and Lloyd for sure.
And I know, Preshias Harris, that you weren't going back in 1980 to see him because of his great instrumentation. You were there probably for other nefarious reasons of which we won't go into. Let me ask you a trivia question. I don't know if this is in I Know Country or not, since you were bragging on Bill Lloyd being, I think, a hilltopper. Do you know what Radney Foster is, his college choice?
A Swanee?
Very good. A Tiger from Sewanee, a.k.a. the University of the South. Yes. Very, very good. I'm impressed by that, Precious.
It helps when you take Tylenol before you get on a radio.
Okay. So we don't often get to throw a hello to Sewanee. So way to go. A former member of the Southeastern Conference, by the way. All right, Precious, I've got some housekeeping to do. One thing I've got to do is talk about some business news. And this broke in the last couple of days from the broadcasting world. Radio Disney and Radio Disney Country are signing off. What can you tell me about this?
Well, I know that their streaming services that you see, we see Hulu, Disney, and all that, it just tripled. And as far as the revenue, because of the way that the radio programming is and the things going on with the pandemic, it's actually toppled as far as the weight scales over to more of their streaming and their and the Disney Channel. So I think that they're revamping and they're actually restructuring the company. I think I heard that they said it's going to be. They started in 1996, but I know that they've sold off some stations since 2014. But they're restructuring and going to put more of the focus on the streaming and television service. I know that 36 people, full-time and part-time, which happens to be a couple of my really good friends there, are going to be losing their jobs, and it makes me sad.
All right, and about 23 Disney-owned and operated stations at one time had Radio Disney, and those are, if they haven't already gone away, will be going away, sadly. But that news there on the business and the broadcasting fronts, more changes, of course, coming as we go through not only the coronavirus, but everything else in the world that we live in is just constantly evolving. And I think as a company, Disney, Precious, I think they're going to be okay. But they seem to, their bean counters, I'm sure, know what they're doing there. Precious, as I mentioned, some housekeeping stuff. I've got to, before I sign off here with you, I apologize to Whisper and Bill Anderson. Not only your assistant, your executive producer there in the background, Chastity, not only do you have her on staff, you have, hey Chastity, not only do you have her working hard for us, you also have a guy named Mike that works so darn hard for us here at the Y'all Show, and he did such a good job of submitting something that I totally failed to give this the visual aid while we were talking about Whisper and Bill Anderson. So without further ado, here's Bill Anderson. Hey, Bill, good to see you. And it's a good day to have a good day. That's what we were talking about earlier. And he's sporting that Georgia Bulldog cap right there.
I know, him and Daldine, I'm telling you. But I do have a couple of things I need to finish up my house cleaning. I want to mention Dean Dillon, because remember I was interning for him in Atlantic when I met you.
Yes, you did.
And he had Hot Country and Single, and I put the wrong cassettes in the wrong pot holders, and it was a catastrophe at Vanderbilt Plaza. That's all I'm going to tell you. I'm surprised I got my internship. But anyway, Dean is actually, him along with Linda Hargrove, is the one that wrote the most streaming song for this past year for Tennessee Whiskey for Chris Stapleton.
I see.
So I want to give a kudos to Dean, especially since that was Atlantic Records was really good to me when I was interning. I got to meet you, which became a lifelong friend. And, and I know that I always talk way too much about Ashley Gorley, but, he got an award too for the top songwriter award for all of his hits. I didn't realize, I knew that he's had 50 number one singles now. And I think he might have 51 as by the end of the year. But, you're always good to me and let me talk about my Kentucky boys, and I appreciate that. And I thought
I got one more for you to talk about.
What else did I do? I love my Kentucky kids.
About the same time you and I met this guy from Kentucky, and he actually accused me of going to a girls' college. I kid you not. Do you know who that was?
Billy Ray.
Yeah. So I got to find out from you, why was your assistant, not Chastity there, that other guy, why was this picture sent our way here this week? What's going on there?
they actually were part of that AIMP or the NANP. See,
Okay.
I belong to 7 different organizations, but they were also one of the top for the whole year. Little Nash X and Billy Ray Cyrus. I think they had like 7 writers on that song.
Okay.
But 12 platinum, 12 times platinum. So platinum is a million.
That's all?
Yeah. So now this is just for 7 million sold units that was sold, but streams was 12 multi-platinum. So if you do 1 million is for each platinum, 12 times platinum is 12 million. Don't make me do math on the air. I'm not good.
That's a requirement. If you work on Music Row, you got to be really good at math, Preshias Harris.
Let me
All right.
I can do publishing splits in my brain for the kids, but I
Yeah.
cannot balance my checkbook. I'm just like Mike says. I'm a fluke.
Okay. Whatever he said. Again.
Yeah, what he said.
Yeah, what he said. Precious, thank you so much for everything you do here on the Y'all Show. And if we don't catch you before Christmas, an early happy and Merry Christmas to you, and Chastity to you as well.
He's in the back.
Yep.
I can't wait for you to hear her music coming out next year in spring. We're hoping we're going to have at least a single out, so I'm excited.
Well, get on it. We can't wait. We cannot wait. I can't wait for 2021 to get here. We're all ready for something different.
I know.
And Chastity, you're going to be our savior. You're going to be the little Nas X of 2021.
Here's hoping. Here's hoping. All right. You have a good day, everybody. Have a good week.
Precious and Chastity here on the Y'all Show. And that will conclude our Nashville Music Line report here this week. And we'll see you soon with more of the show that covers everything Southern.